On Christmas Day, Liu Ruyan said she had to go on a business trip, but I ended up getting a video of her ex-boyfriend sending me. She was dressed as Catwoman and dancing on top of her ex-boyfriend Yang, taking the initiative. It turned out that the business trip she told me about was actually fooling around with someone else. I sneered, pretended not to see the video, and called Xiao Qingmei Li Man on the other hand. Interested in spending Christmas together? I have ready-made melons for you to eat here, guaranteed to be sweet. 01. While waiting for Li Man to come over, I sent several messages to Liu Ruyan, but she didn't reply. I guess she was in the middle of something and couldn't bother to reply to me. I called her again, maybe a dozen times, and she finally picked up. Her voice was a little tired and hoarse, as familiar as ever, and a little impatient. What's up? I'm busy. I said with a smile, what are you busy with at this late hour? I miss you. When are you coming back? She paused, and there was a rustling of the quilt on the other end of the line. Tomorrow, she said, there's still some work that must be finished today. Well, I'm really busy, so I'll hang up now. I'll go straight to bed after I finish, and we can talk about it tomorrow. She interrupted me before I could finish speaking. The moment I hung up, I heard Yang's malicious laughter, which was obviously meant for me to hear. I didn't call back. After a while, Yang sent me a message again. Ruyan has already gone to bed, so you should get some rest too. I'll keep you company today, and I'll go back to keep you company tomorrow, so it won't be a problem. I almost threw up, and with great difficulty I managed to reply. Even though Ruyan is with you, I love her so much that I won't be angry with her. It's fine as long as she comes back on time tomorrow. Yang was probably speechless with surprise at my words. He imagined that I should be shocked and angry, and that I would rush over there right away to catch them red-handed, and then naturally break up with Liu Ruyan and take over. Who knew that not only did I not care, but I could even calmly let her come back tomorrow. After a long time, the phone vibrated, and Yang sent 2 words. Licking dog. I could feel his teeth grinding through the screen. I sneered and didn't reply. I was about to call Li Man to ask her when she was going to arrive when the knock on the door sounded. I went to open the door and Li Man's little face, which had turned a little red from the cold wind, appeared before me. She rubbed her hands together and looked at me with sparkling eyes. Her voice was so cute. What melon? How sweet is it? Li Man grew up with me and never liked Liu Ruyan. She always said, you men can't understand women, but we women can tell what kind of person someone is just by looking at them. This Liu Ruyan is definitely no good. I knew that Li Man had liked me since she was little, so I didn't really pay much attention to what she said before, but now I believe her. I showed her the video and message that Yang sent. As she watched, her eyes widened and her face flushed. How dare they? Playing around like that? I gave a bitter smile, and my voice unconsciously turned cold as I spoke. It shouldn't be the first time. If Yang hadn't told me today, I would have been kept in the dark. She looked at me with some sympathy, threw the phone down, and angrily said, what did I say? We're both women, how could I not know what Liu Ruyan is thinking? When she was with you, she always mentioned her ex-boyfriend, obviously unable to let go of the past. Only you couldn't see that, and were still so good to her. She grabbed me and started to walk out of the house. Let's go, I want to catch them in the act. You can't stand it anymore, can you? I sat on the sofa without moving, and Li Man's little strength was not enough to pull me. Seeing that I was unmoved, she became even more angry. What, you still don't want to break up, and you still want to be with her? I looked up at her red face, and my heart stirred. Many emotions that I had never felt before welled up in me. I took her hand in mine, looked into her narrowed pupils, and said seriously, in 2 months, I want to marry you. Do you believe me? 2. The next day, Liu Ruyan returned. She didn't notice anything unusual at home. For example, there were a few more strands of hair belonging to another woman on the bed, and there were 2 less contraceptives in the drawer of the bedside table. She looked exhausted, but in high spirits. As soon as she arrived home, she threw herself onto the bed and let out a long sigh. I'm so tired, I'm finally home. As she said this, it seemed as if she suddenly remembered something, and she sprang up and held out her hand to me. Right, where's my Christmas present? I glanced at her and said indifferently, I forgot to buy it. Since you were working overtime and we weren't together, what's the point of a Christmas present? She immediately let her face fall, frowned in displeasure, and said, What do you mean, you didn't prepare one? Seeing that I didn't say anything and had a look of acquiescence on my face, she picked up a pillow and hit me, angrily saying, You're not even married yet and you're already being perfunctory, aren't you? In the past, there were gifts for every holiday. Didn't I tell you that I care most about the sense of ritual? Why didn't you prepare one? Actually, I did prepare one, a necklace that she had wanted for a long time, except that I gave it to Li Man yesterday. As I watched her hands tremble with anger, I said emotionlessly, Let's talk about it next holiday. Isn't it New Year's Day soon? We won't celebrate foreign holidays anymore, so I'll make it up to you on New Year's Day. She wasn't appeased, and glared at me with a frown. Xiao Qingmei, I can see that you don't want to get married, right? You're right, if you can't even get me a Christmas present, what's the point of getting married? She said, stood up and was about to leave. I quickly stopped her and coaxed her with a soft voice. I was wrong. How about I buy you a double gift on New Year's Day in a couple of days? She struggled to walk out again, so I had to say, Did you sleep well last night? You travel a lot, so I'll buy you a portable pillow so you can sleep more comfortably. Her face changed. Hearing me mention last night and such a sensitive matter as sleep, she indeed stopped dwelling on the gift and tried to change the subject. No, in fact, it doesn't matter if there is a gift or not. As long as you are sincere, I will be satisfied. She sat back on the bed. There was only a little more than a month left until the wedding. When were you going to give me the bride price? It was 880,000 yuan in total. Were you ready? I raised the corners of my mouth and looked at her thoughtfully, saying, I've already got it ready. I'll talk to my mother in a couple of days and have her transfer the money to you. Liu Ruyan smiled happily, her eyes full of pride and joy at having everything under control. I smiled back at her, beaming with happiness. But the hand by my side was clenched into a fist, the knuckles white with the force of my grip. I knew that Liu Ruyan wanted the bride price for Yu Yang. Yu Yang has a heart condition, and the medication costs hundreds of thousands of yuan a year. If he is not careful, he will have to be hospitalized, and the surgery will cost even more. When we first got together, Liu Ruyan was quite honest with me. She said that her family did not approve of the two of them getting together because of Yu Yang's health, and she was a little afraid herself. After all, with a heart condition, you can't get emotional, and you never know when an accident will happen. She was afraid to gamble away her whole life. But after she started seeing me, the two of them never stopped communicating. When Yu Yang was no longer her other half, and she no longer had to worry about life, death, sickness, or old age, she became even more unrestrained. No more emotions, just physical contact. Enjoy the pleasure, without the responsibility. Liu Ruyan had played her cards very well. She got her emotional satisfaction from me, and every now and then she told me she was going out for overtime work, but in fact she was going to a hotel with Yu Yang. 3. Over the past 5 years, every now and then she would transfer some money to Yu Yang. It wasn't much, just a few thousand yuan. Whenever I asked about it, she'd say that Yu Yang was so pitiful, that he couldn't work hard because of his health, and that he didn't have much education and couldn't earn much money. After all, they had been together, so there was no harm in helping him out. If I said anything more, she'd get angry. We're not even married yet, and you're already controlling my money. I can spend my own money however I like, what business is it of yours? It was at that time that Li Man noticed something was wrong with Liu Ruyan and advised me to be careful. Unfortunately, I was too close to the situation to see it. I loved Liu Ruyan and took Li Man's words with a grain of salt. Fortunately, we hadn't married yet, so it wasn't too late. You want to use my dowry to treat Yu Yang? Just wait and see. It was soon the night before New Year's Day, and Liu Ruyan tried the same trick again, saying she had to go on a business trip the next day. Of course I knew what she was up to, so I asked her, Is your company that busy? Do you have to travel on holidays? She replied absent-mindedly while playing with her phone, Of course sales companies are busiest during holidays. I work so hard so that our lives will be better in the future. I sneered inwardly. She's quite interesting, and she even sets herself up as the dominant woman. After a while, I asked nonchalantly, what would you do if I cheated on you one day? She frowned subconsciously, put down her phone and looked at me. Seeing that I was smiling, not serious, she narrowed her eyes slyly and raised the corners of her mouth. You dare to cheat? I was busy in the kitchen, tidying up the dishes and cutlery while naturally saying, just kidding. She raised her eyebrows, and if that day really came, I would definitely cheat too, and then pretend not to know about it, and marry someone else, leaving you heartbroken. The smile on the corner of her mouth finally became a little more sincere. I wiped my hands and said seriously, thank you. She was taken aback and a little confused. Thank you for what? Thank you for teaching me what to do. I sneered inwardly, but didn't show it on my face. I walked over and pinched her cheek. Thank you for the warning. After you said that, I won't even dare to look at other people. In the future, I'll walk around the block when I see other women. She laughed at my joke and threw herself into my arms. Qingmei, you really are very good to me. After we get married, I will definitely live a good life with you. Okay, we will definitely be the happiest couple in the world. I have already spoken to my parents about the bride price, and they said they will give it to you after New Year's Day. I said this, but in a place where she couldn't see me, I slowly hid my smile. I don't know since when, but whenever I smell her scent or hear her breathing, I feel nauseous. Liu Ruyan did not sense my change in mood. She was still smug, thinking that I was still the same Qingmei who loved her to death. Fine, when the dowry arrives, I will save it up myself. I am marrying far away, and I need to leave myself some way out. If you treat me badly in the future, I will definitely run away with the money. She was half joking and half warning, making it hard to tell what she really meant. They say a woman's heart is like a bottomless well, and this is absolutely true. If Yang hadn't sent me the video, I really couldn't have guessed Liu Ruyan's true thoughts just from our daily interactions. It's also my own fault for being stupid and trusting her too much. But there's no need to rush, the best is yet to come. 4. The next day, Liu Ruyan really did go on a business trip. As with the last time, all the messages and calls I sent her were met with a dead end, as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. In the evening, Yang posted his location on Weibo, and it turned out that Liu Ruyan and he were meeting at a restaurant. It was also time to eat, so I called Li Man and went to the restaurant with him, sitting in the small private room next to theirs. The restaurant was decorated in a Japanese style, with the private room surrounded by wood, so the soundproofing was very poor and you could hear everything if you spoke a little louder. Li Man whispered to me, "Can't we go to another restaurant? This is too exciting." I shook my head gently, and before I could say anything, I heard Liu Ruyan next door raise her voice in surprise and shout. "What? You accidentally sent our video to Qingmei? Yang, are you okay?" Yang said with some guilt, "I did it accidentally. I was going to keep it for myself when you weren't here, but I clicked the wrong button and..." But don't worry, Qingmei wasn't angry. Not only wasn't he angry, he said that as long as you came home safely, that was all that mattered. It seems that he really loves you very much. Liu Ruyan's breathing became heavier, and it was a while before she said, "It's already happened, so there's no use blaming you." It's a good thing that Qingmei wasn't angry, otherwise. I never would have thought that he loved me so much that he wouldn't pursue this matter even after something like this happened. I'm quite embarrassed. Yang said somewhat displeased. What are you embarrassed about? Didn't we agree that after you get the bride price and I have my operation, we'll go our separate ways? You go on living your life, and I'll go abroad after I'm cured. By then, no one will know. What are you afraid of? What's more, Qingmei didn't say anything when he found out, which proves that he loves you so much that he can't help himself. Even if he knows you cheated on him, he still won't break up with you. Liu Ruyan's voice was a little confused, and she muttered, "Really? Really?" Yang continued to brainwash her. "Ruyan, we're seeing each other less and less, and you don't want me to die of a heart attack one day, do you? You'd better ask him for the dowry quickly and give it to me. Just say you've saved it up. Qingmei is so stupid, he won't find out." I couldn't help but snort. Yang's anxious tone clearly indicated that last time, when he saw that I didn't care about Liu Ruyan's infidelity, he realized that the two of us were unlikely to break up, and that since he couldn't get Liu Ruyan, he wanted to hurry up and take the money and run. Next door, Liu Ruyan didn't feel Yang's greed for money in the slightest, but instead said seriously, Don't worry, although we broke up because of my family, I feel quite guilty about it. Shen Qingmei is very good to me, and his family is not poor. You also said that he knew I slept with you and wasn't angry, and even if he knew I gave you the money, he would put up with it. When the time comes, you can go abroad after the operation. This amount of money is enough for you to find a job and rent a place. Next to me, Li Man clenched her fists, stood up abruptly, her face red with anger, as if she was about to fight. I quickly held her back and shook my head at her. She frowned tightly, disapproving of my patience. Her eyes signaled to me that she couldn't take it anymore and that she was going to go over and expose Liu Ruyan and Yang for the liars they were. There was nothing I could do but grab her hand and pull her out of the restaurant. Why didn't you just catch them in the act? What's the point of holding back? Didn't you hear what people were saying about you? Calling you stupid. On the street, Li Man shouted at me as she walked quickly, "Are you still in love with Liu Ruyan? Can't let go." I sighed helplessly, grabbed her hand to make her stop. "Yu Yang has a heart condition. If we make a scene and he has a heart attack, none of us will get away with it. So just bear it. Give her the bride price and let her pay for Yu Yang's medical treatment." Shen Qingmei, are you a pushover? Looking at Li Man's anxious and exasperated expression, I smiled and pinched her face. Who said I was going to give her the bride price? Didn't I say it already? Just wait for me. We're getting married in less than a month, the bride price and the bride's position are all yours, why give it to her? 5. Li Man finally looked a little better after I calmed her down. She said unwillingly. So what are you going to do? Give her the dowry first and then take it back. I shook my head. I'm not going to give it to her. Just trust me. In the meantime, try on your wedding dress and let's go take wedding photos sometime. She finally nodded, and let me take her hand and go home. The next day, as soon as Li Man left, Liu Ruyan came back. Just like last time, the first thing she did when she got home was to ask me for a present. I took out 2 exquisite boxes and handed them to her, containing a necklace and a bracelet that she had liked for a long time but had not dared to buy. Unfortunately, they were all high-quality imitations. She put them on herself with surprise, admiring herself in the mirror. As I watched her smile at the corner of her mouth, I sighed and said, a little embarrassed, "Ruyan, my mother called me. She suddenly changed her mind and said that we should get married first and then get a marriage certificate. As for the bride price, I will give it to you after we get married." What? Ruyan's smile froze on her face. She was stunned for a moment, and then she became furious. How is this different from what we agreed on? Didn't you say that you would give it all to me before we got married? Shen Qingmei, what does your mother mean? I patted her hand reassuringly. This simple contact already made me feel a little sick, so I just patted it twice and stepped back, saying slowly, I can't help it. You know my mother never really agreed to us being together. You want so much in the way of a bride price that there's no dowry left. She can't promise to give it to you after the wedding, and I've begged for it. Ruyan, if you really want to be with me, there's no rush. Just wait a month. I'll definitely give it to you. We've been together for 5 years. Have I ever lied to you? Liu Ruyan pursed her lips, and she looked me earnestly in the eyes, trying to find any signs that I was lying. Unfortunately, I was sincere and open, not to mention how I had treated her since we had been together, and she knew that very well. After a while, she angrily said, Your mother doesn't think I want too much, does she? I'm marrying you from afar, and I'll be all alone. Isn't it normal to want 880,000? With your family situation, you can still come up with 880,000 yuan. Shen Qingmei, do you still want to marry me? How can I marry you if you don't even have any attitude? I quickly persuaded her, in order to be with you, I haven't gone home for a long time, and it really took every effort I could muster to get my mother to agree. For the sake of my hard work, just wait another month. After a month, I will definitely make you the happiest bride in the world. What's 880,000? Once we're married, all of my parents' money will be ours. I spoke warmly and sincerely, and although Liu Ruyan was unhappy, she wasn't that angry after all. She nodded reluctantly, Okay, I'll trust you for once, but I want the dowry the day after the wedding. Your family can't get something for nothing. I quickly agreed, Don't worry, I'll give you the dowry at the end of the wedding, my mother has already prepared it. Seeing my sincere and respectful attitude, Liu Ruyan finally let go of her worries. She said with a smug smile, "You must listen to me and treat me well, otherwise I will leave you, and you won't even have anyone to cry to." 6. There were still a few days until the wedding, and Liu Ruyan didn't go to see Yu Yang again, focusing all her energy on preparing for the wedding. They seemed to have had a fight. Just a few days ago, I heard them talking on the phone, and Yu Yang was very unhappy about the dowry. He insisted that Liu Ruyan receive the dowry before the wedding, and in his anger, he said things about Liu Ruyan being useless. After that phone call, they never saw each other again. It seems that Yu Yang kept messaging her, but she was being stubborn and didn't reply. The maid of honor was chosen, and the hotel for the reception was booked. It was decorated in a very festive manner. Liu Ruyan bought several outfits at her own expense, including the wedding dress, the toast drinking dress, and the props for the games to be played on the wedding day. Her parents also arrived, and after a brief meeting with me, they did not forget to put me in my place. "I'm trusting you with my daughter, and will be taking the wedding dowry." Liu Ruyan looked at me and I nodded and smiled. "Don't worry, auntie and uncle, I'll give you the entire dowry." Liu Ruyan had settled me before. Her parents didn't have much affection for her, and the 880,000 yuan dowry would be 100,000 yuan to them, which was more than enough to buy off the relationship. Her parents were very satisfied with my understanding and gave me a long lecture before they left. The night before the wedding, a group of friends got together for one last night of being single. Liu Ruyan didn't have any family or friends, so she spent the night with us too. She had drunk too much and took Li Man's hand, crying and saying that she was sorry for the past and that she would be good to me in the future. The other friends were confused, but Li Man and I understood the reason and smiled knowingly. It seems that after arguing with Yu Yang, Liu Ruyan's heart has leaned a little more towards me. At this moment, when we are about to get married, she may have made a qualitative leap in her feelings for me. After all, she is a woman, and no one can guess what she is thinking. That night, I went home, and Liu Ruyan stayed at the hotel. Before leaving, she drunkenly grabbed my hand and reminded me, "You must behave well tomorrow, I don't want to be embarrassed in front of my parents. You promised to make me the happiest woman, don't go back on your word." I pulled my hand back without being noticed, and looked at her as she lay on the bed, half asleep, and said meaningfully, "You also promised me that you would love me forever and never betray me. What have you done?" Liu Ruyan didn't hear a word I said and fell asleep. I snorted, dialed a friend's number, and changed the decorations in the hotel overnight. The route for the wedding procession the next day was changed to go to Li Man's house. The next day, the convoy changed its route. While Liu Ruyan, her parents, and the bridesmaids were waiting for me in the hotel, I had already arrived at Li Man's house. Seeing that the time had already passed, Liu Ruyan frantically called me, but unfortunately I was playing the wedding reception game and missed all of them. 2 hours later, I picked up Li Man at the banquet hotel. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner. The bride had been changed for this wedding, and everyone had been notified a long time ago, so no one was surprised. Wherever we went, we were greeted with blessings. Li Man and I stood hand in hand on the stage, and she shed tears of happiness. It was like a dream for me too. Just a month ago, I was looking forward to my wedding with Liu Ruyan, but today, the person standing next to me had changed to Li Man. My phone kept vibrating, and I knew without a doubt that it was Liu Ruyan calling. She must have been beside herself with worry in the hotel. Just as the host was asking me if I was willing to marry Li Man, a woman in a wedding dress suddenly barged in from the sidelines. She looked at all this with a pale face, 2 clear tears streaming down her eyes, and her expression was wonderful. Disbelief, shock, anger, and grievance. 7. Mixed together, distorting her expression. Her makeup was smeared with tears, and she was too emotional to speak for a moment. At the slightest glance from me, the security guards rushed over and stopped her outside. Meanwhile, I held the microphone firmly and looked at Li Man sincerely and said, "I do." Wow. The applause of the full hall of guests even drowned out the music, and blessings were heard everywhere. But not far away, in a corner where no one could see, Liu Ruyan was crying and had smudged her makeup. She was being held back by several security guards. Her wedding dress had several holes in it, it was covered in dust, her hair was a mess, and she looked like a ragged rag doll. Despair was about to well up in her eyes. When they locked eyes, Her eyes were red and her eyes were about to burst from their sockets as she tried to rush over, but she couldn't move a step. Just as she was about to scream something, the security guards blocked her mouth and dragged her away. She didn't even get to say a word of protest. No one noticed her, and she was like she had never been there, appearing and disappearing in a hurry. I withdrew my gaze, a cruel smile curling the corners of my mouth. It was so satisfying. But it wasn't enough. After the wedding, I took the initiative to meet Liu Ruyan. After all, this matter had to be resolved sooner or later. Seeing me, she broke down in tears and grabbed me, questioning. What the hell is going on? Shen Xingmu, what kind of trick are you playing? Why didn't you come to pick me up, and why is the bride Li Man? Her voice was hoarse, and her eyes were fixed on me. What do you mean? This is all a lie, isn't it? You're just playing with me, and you're still going to marry me, aren't you? I shook my head helplessly and sneered mockingly. Who are you to question me about what's going on? Don't you know? She was stunned. I took out my phone from my pocket and pulled out the video that Yu Yang had sent me that day. Liu Ruyan was wearing a cat costume and sitting on Yu Yang's body, swaying back and forth. Her face was flushed and her eyes were full of excitement. The volume of the phone was turned up to the maximum, and you could still hear some obscene words and Liu Ruyan's faint panting. She froze in place for a moment, and all the blood drained from her face, even her lips turned white. After a long while, she spoke with a trembling voice, didn't you say you didn't care? I sneered, which man wouldn't care about being cuckolded? Liu Ruyan, you and Yu Yang think I'm a dog licker, so I'll do as you wish. You cheated on me, so I cheated on you back. Isn't that fair? Her pupils contracted, her lips parted slightly, like a fish out of water, about to run out of breath. You mean you and Li Man have been having an affair for a long time? It was as if she had thought of something terrible, her eyes were bloodshot and she couldn't continue speaking. After a while, she suddenly raised her hand and hit me. You scumbag. How could you do this to me? You ruined my wedding. I'll kill you. I grabbed her hand and the smile on my lips gradually turned cold, piercing into her heart like ice. Who is really sorry for whom? I believed in you so much, but what did you do? And then I laughed again. Do you remember when I asked you what you would do if you found out I cheated on you? She shuddered, as if she had also remembered what she had said at that time. If that day ever came, I would definitely cheat on you too, and then pretend not to know about it, and marry someone else, leaving you heartbroken. At the time I said, thank you. At the moment, looking at Liu Ruyan, who was standing in front of me, swaying unsteadily and about to pass out, I smiled sincerely and said slowly. Thank you for the idea, from the bottom of my heart. 8. After marrying Li Man, I took a few days off and didn't bother with Liu Ruyan. I had already thrown her things out of the house, and I had also put the house where she had lived with me for several years up for sale online. As for the video of him and Yu Yang, I have already saved it to the internet, and if nothing goes wrong, it will come in handy in the future. She and Yu Yang will not let this matter rest. As expected, 2 days before the new year, Liu Ruyan suddenly approached me to borrow money. At that time, Li Man and I were just coming out of the movie theater. This year's Chinese New Year movies were not bad, and we were holding hands discussing the plot, preparing for a second viewing tomorrow. Who knew that we would run into Liu Ruyan at the entrance to the movie theater? Li Man's smile slowly froze, and looking at Liu Ruyan, she impatiently said, How did you know we were here? What bad luck. Liu Ruyan looked at her angrily, and jealousy and anger made her expression hideous again. You could tell that she was trying to provoke someone's anger. After a while, she spoke. Xingmu, I want to borrow some money from you. Yu Yang is in the hospital. And dying. I raised my eyebrows. If you don't go and see which KTV is still hiring, the money will come fast, and I won't lend it to you. You don't think I'd lend money to someone who made a cuckold out of me, do you? Don't be ridiculous. Liu Ruyan was anxious when she heard my refusal so decisive. She fell to her knees in front of me with a thud, her eyes gradually moistening, and she choked up, regardless of the people coming and going. I know I have wronged you, you have had your revenge, and now Yu Yang is in trouble and urgently needs an operation, you can't just stand by and do nothing. After all, we have been together for 5 years. As she said this, she looked up at me pitifully, Xingmu, I know you have a good heart, you won't be able to bear to see Yu Yang like this. After all, it is because of you that we didn't get the bride price. We had a fight, and he got angry. You also bear some responsibility for this. You can't just stand by and do nothing." I scratched my ear and frowned impatiently. "Did I hear you right? Are you trying to morally blackmail me? You think I don't know that you're anxious to get the bride price and actually want to give it to him? We're not married, so it's only natural that I won't give you the bride price, so how can you blame me for his illness?" "Yes," Li Man angrily said, "I've long since not liked you. What does it matter if your husband lives or dies? Leave us alone." Behind us, Liu Ruyan also grabbed my hand at the same time. She looked at me with a heartbreaking yet unwilling gaze. If her tears were because of Yu Yang just now, then at the moment, they were because of herself. "Qingmei, are you really so heartless? Even if I have wronged you, I have also suffered retribution. You made me lose so much face in front of my parents and friends, isn't that enough? My parents have already disowned me because of this, and Yu Yang is in the hospital. We can't even scrape together 10,000 yuan, so we can't even get the surgery. Can't you help? Pop." As soon as she finished speaking, Li Man slapped her in the face. Liu Ruyan's body tilted from the blow and she almost fell to the ground. Li Man narrowed her eyes and said, "Qingmei, I'm sorry to have to do this, but I'll do it. You are the scum of women. What face do you have to say these words? I tell you, Yu Yang will die if he wants to. You can do whatever you like, it has nothing to do with us. Recognize the reality, don't follow us and block us anymore in the future." I looked at Li Man in shock, and then she pulled me away without warning. Liu Ruyan was behind her, crying in pain, and people passing by kept looking at her. After walking for a while, Li Man glanced at me and said with a hint of acidity, "What, can't bring yourself to do it? After treating you like that, you're still taking her side?" I smiled sheepishly and said, "How could I? I'm just not in the habit of hitting women." "Humph, that depends on what kind of woman it is." Li Man snorted, and said, "I'll beat Liu Ruyan up every time I see her." I laughed and agreed, okay, whatever you say." 9. After this incident, Liu Ruyan contacted me twice more, but I didn't reply to either the phone calls or the text messages. I made it clear that I didn't want to make Li Man angry because of her. Unexpectedly, a week later, on the first day of the Chinese New Year, she posted a video online. "My name is Liu Ruyan, and I am reporting Xiao Qingmei, the director of the Shen Group, in person. He and I were in a relationship for 5 years, but on our wedding day, he left me in the hotel." In the video, Liu Ruyan holds up her ID card and talks passionately into the camera. Tears fall as she speaks, and netizens watching are filled with indignation. She exposes my social media accounts and adds at the end of the video, "Please help me, I just want compensation. My brother needs heart surgery and this money is very important to me, thank you." For a while, countless netizens swarmed to the bottom of my account to scold people, and what's more, they found Li Man's account. "This is the account of a scumbag. He looks good looking, but he's really disgusting. Everyone report him. There's strength in numbers. Let the scumbag pay compensation. Is this woman the other woman? It's really speechless to see a woman do this." In just one day, all of Li Man's social media platforms were taken over. After this video was posted, Liu Ruyan sent me a message. "I didn't want to do this, but you forced me to. I only want 200,000 yuan, and I will never bother you again after I get the money." I didn't reply, and I ignored the comments online. Liu Ruyan went even further, not only posting several videos a day, but also starting a live broadcast, where she talked about this matter every day, inciting the emotions of netizens. "Please help me. I really don't know what else to do. I'll go to his place and leave a message, saying that if I can convince him, my brother will be saved." Because she played her role so well, our case even made the hot search list, and several net celebrities who didn't know the truth rallied to her side, even offering to pay for my brother's surgery first. That same day, the police in City A issued a notice. 5 days ago, we received a report. Liu Ruyan was suspected of blackmail, extortion, slander, and defamation of others' reputations for posting false statements online. Today, the public security authorities have arrested Liu Ruyan. This changed the online public opinion overnight. Everyone was shocked by Liu Ruyan's acting skills, and they all came to my comment section to apologize and express their guilt. The internet celebrities who said they would help her also deleted their updates and apologized as soon as possible. The day after Liu Ruyan was arrested, my phone broke down. While it was being repaired, my old chat history with Yu Yang was exposed. The video of Liu Ruyan writhing on top of Yu Yang and Yu Yang's provocative words shocked netizens' values. At the same time, I formally filed a lawsuit against Liu Ruyan. Everyone is equal under the law, and there is no hiding from the light of the sun. 6 months later, the verdict of the first trial came out, and Liu Ruyan was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and she did not appeal. At this point, she was ruined and disgraced. Before going in, Liu Ruyan and I met. She looked as if someone had sucked the essence out of her, and she looked several years older. There was no hatred, no love, and no emotion in her eyes when she looked at me. Her voice was hoarse like a sponge. Yu Yang had died. I raised my eyebrows and didn't say a word. It was as if she let out a long sigh. The past weighed on her like a mountain, bending her back. If I had known it would turn out like this, I would have made the most of our time together. It's my own fault. You won't die, you'll come out again. Go in and reform yourself. My voice was neither sad nor happy. Let's not talk about the past, and don't ever say you had a boyfriend like me, I'm ashamed. She shed a tear, bit her dry lips, and choked as she said, "Yes, I have brought you shame. If I hadn't taken that wrong step, perhaps we would have broken up for various reasons. People who don't fit together will get divorced even if they get married. Liu Ruyan, we are completely unsuited." I interrupted her and shook my head. We shouldn't meet again in the future. Behind me, Liu Ruyan's gaze never left me until I turned the corner and took another road. Just as I expected, Li Man was waiting for me not far away. She was wearing a white dress, but it seemed to emit a dazzling rainbow of colors. I opened my arms and embraced her. It was like embracing a bright future.